platform where we break barriers, dive into bold modern takes, spark conversations that matter from real life challenges to inspiring stories. I'm here to build a fearless community of open minded thinkers, all while rocking motherhood. Let's level up, y'all. So, thanks for joining me today on my first podcast. Woo! Episode 1. Yes. For those of you that don't know, my name is Armani, and I originally have a YouTube channel, which I still have. It's called All Things Armani&Aviena, and I do things with my daughter. We show episodes of a day in our life and arts and crafts with her, and just yeah. So this is a different segment, and this is my podcast segment, and it's called Beyond the Norm. So I'm so glad you guys can join me in for today's topic. You guys will see me looking down, just some notes on the things about the topic, which is polygamy. Yes, polygamy. We're talking about it. Let's get into it because it's been happening. People are joining relationships, and people are joining relationships that don't know they joining relationships. Let's just talk about it, okay? Because it's something. All right, so I looked up why. So my thing with polygamy, I was thinking like it's because maybe people don't want to cheat, right? People like, oh, I don't want to be cheated on. If my partner wants somebody, I looked it up. So I'm in the state of Arizona, and I just decided to look up to see what the number one state is for cheating. And Arizona, it's not Arizona, thank God, but Arizona is number 8 for cheaters. That's crazy, y'all. But 20% of men cheat and 13% of women, this is like the statistic in marriage, cheat. So men and women are out here, we just cheat on each other, y'all. It's crazy. But my thoughts on polygamy is that I think it's kind of interesting, because I got somebody that's gonna help me cook, clean, take care of kids, pick kids up, do things I don't want to do when I don't feel like doing it. It sounds like an A plus. But I had went around talking to people about it just to see like what their thoughts were about it and things like that. And just I got a lot of things. So I'm gonna look here at my notes and see what I got. So I had interviewed my aunt and my uncle and asked them what they thought about it, and they were like, the polygamy is not new. Back in the 70s, it's something that they did. And I'm just like, oh yeah, hippies. Hippies were sleeping with everybody. This is when the whole A things came up, you know? And then they just didn't care. They were sharing girlfriends, y'all. Back in the 70s and probably even before that, they were just sharing girlfriends. Then you got to think about it when Grandma Sally was in a 10-year marriage with Uncle Rob. We knew Rob had a family down the street. And Grandma was still with Uncle Grandpa Rob. So that's polygamy right there. So it's just consensual polygamy. So for all those of you who don't know, polygamy is a term, an umbrella term for a person with multiple consensual relationships. So there's all types. There's triads. There's the other one were the woman and 2 men, and then there's the one with the men and 2 women. I'm speaking on the men and the 2 women. I don't personally, though. I don't think that I could handle the 2 men. That's just it's a lot. It's a lot going on there. And then you have to find men that don't like want to compete with each other because men have testosterone and things like that. So you just really have to look about just things about that. But then my aunt and my uncle, sorry I got off topic, but my aunt and my uncle, they were just like, this isn't new. There's hippies, it's been going on since then. And then you have to think about it like if you decide, I'm just gonna speak on like the 3 relationships moving forward. So then you just have to think about if it's a man and 2 women, and you guys are just boyfriend and girlfriend, y'all gonna be having sex without condoms, like and then it's like I feel like for you to be in this type of relationship, you have to make sure that you're a super secure person. You can't be always insecure and I feel like jealousy is a very human thing. My uncle was telling me that. And then, my uncle had touched on something. He feels like this is only a dynamic someone who has a certain type of trauma, that they've been through in their life as to why they would choose this type of relationship in the future. And is this I'm asking y'all too, because he asked me, is it a sustainable relationship? And I've looked and done my research. There's a few people out there who have sustained this relationship. Like I know Neo is in, these types of things. Akon, but they also say that polygamy is a rich man's sport. And I did a little bit of research, and it is. So, in certain parts of the countries, polygamy is a rich man's sport. You only take on as many wives as you can afford. So if you can afford four wives, then you take on those four wives. Can't afford no four wives, you don't take on no four wives. You have one and you stick to one. Don't be trying to go to Cootie May down the street. Okay? So it's just crazy. So I'm gonna read you guys this term that I had looked up. It says poly relationships. Polyamory is an umbrella term for various forms of non-monogamous, a polyamorous relationship slash non-monogamous relationship where people have multiple romantic or sexual partners at a time. So this is not to say, and 4 to 5% of the population practices polyamory, but 21% have engaged in consensual non-monogamy at some point. So some of y'all now here after threesomes, that's non-monogamy, uh, consensual polygamy in a sense. It's just you guys just tend to have a third person come in every once in 3 months. It's the same thing. And then polygamy is also just relationships that allow emotional intimacy, because what if you and your boyfriend of what, let's say you and your boyfriend of 4 years or you and your husband of 5 years and you get a male friend, and we already know that a majority of men, we won't say all, but a majority of men don't like their woman to have male friendships. And then if you attach in emotional attachment to this man, nothing physical, no, oh, I want to touch you and kiss you, nothing sexual. It's just all pure emotional. Your husband might feel away. And that's when I guess you could say polygamy could be introduced, because it's still a relationship outside of your marriage where you're being extra vulnerable and giving this person a part of you that essentially only your husband is supposed to have. And people will call that emotionally cheating. So there's all types of things when it comes to this polygamy, polyamorous, non monogamous, whichever term you guys choose to take, lifestyle. I find it very interesting. Myself, I would, don't judge me now, but I would be interested in trying it out. It's just the question is, will it be sustainable? And then, my uncle, they also asked me, would you be okay with your child? If your child came to you and told you that they wanted this type of relationship. And it took me a minute to answer that question. It took me a long minute to answer that question, because I had to think about it, because I kind of agreed with my uncle. I do feel like people who enter these relationships, um, we'll say into these non-monogamous, non-ethical relationships, unhealed, I feel like they do come from a trauma standpoint, like something in their lives has happened that has made them choose to pursue this type of relationship for the rest of their life. But I do also feel like there are people out there who do it for the sense of community, that just want to be connected to multiple people in a non-sexual way, and that's why they call it non-monogamous or a non-ethical, because a lot of people don't find it ethical for you to have a whole husband, but then you have another dude that you could, or man or friend or a co-worker that you can emotionally be vulnerable with and not have any type of intimacy. I mean, that's a type of intimacy, but like physical intimacy, never act on it, never cross the line. But to some people, being that vulnerable with somebody besides your husband is crossing the line. So I get that part, and then I also get the part of, just wanted to create a community because I do, for myself, I feel like us, as my auntie has put a term on me, us as Pan Africans or just Black people in general. So Pan African is a term, is also an umbrella term, But just as Black people as a whole, I feel like we should be community. I feel like we should come together. So if there are less men on the planet than there is women, and it's not negative in my eyes. It does. I don't see it as a negative in my eyes. I feel like people are free to make a choice because non-monogamy and monogamy is a choice. Depending on your lifestyle, what you want in life, what guides you. I like my auntie also plus another term on me. I like to be free, so I'm free. I don't like terms. They're not going to box me in. My situation or my relationship is just what I would call my situation or my relationship, you know? Again, sorry, you guys. There's just my son in the background. Mommy duties! Yes! So, yeah, just polygamy. I find it polygamy, polyamory. I think that's the one for the girls. Salute to the girls that can handle two men. But since we need some men, we can't take them all. So yeah, I just it's also polygamy, polyamory, non-monogamy. I'm not sure which term to specifically use for what I am referencing, so I'm just saying them all. Do not come for me in the comments, please. But like I was saying, it's also a sense of community because there are less men than there are women. So it was also placed in other countries and practiced because to make sure that the children had a father in the home. And like I said, it's a rich man's sport. So if you can't support those wives that you want, they would not allow them to have those people. So I guess I mean, hey, I was kind of agree with that. If you can't support me and hold me up the way that I need to be with your other four girlfriends without making me feel like I'm chopped liver, then I don't think it should be done. Very much so. So that's just my take on it. I would love to know what you guys think. If anybody wants to come on the show and talk about it, let it down in the comments. Also let me know what was the most interesting thing um, about this segment, and just let me know down in the comments. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me in the first podcast video. It was very interesting. Just my thoughts on polyamory, polygamy, non-monogamy, non-ethical monogamy. So yes, thanks for joining.